Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Football Legends podcast. We're back again with Marcus and Robbie, and this week, as Marcus is proudly puffing the chest out there, we're going to take a look at Bolton Wanderers and a cult team for people like me, anyway. That United have never been out of the top division in my lifetime, but a team that always gave it a tough game and always had some unbelievable players and some brilliant memories of Bolton teams and Big Sam and everything like that. And, Robbie, briefly before we get into it as well, obviously Leeds around that time, were smashing team as well, and Bolton were really starting to get good as well. And, what are your memories just briefly on that Bolton team at first hand?
Yeah, I think just want to touch on Tom. I love the intro music there and the
Sky News. Sky News are gonna Sky News copyright infringement.
Yeah, and pictures of Zidane and Ferguson are very well done. Now Bolton were a team that took the Premier League by storm. I think Allardyce, actually, we were talking about it there a few weeks ago, kind of reinvented the wheel a bit, didn't he? He was the first to bring in the heart monitor and all, I think, on the chest. And he'd have a little simmer, probably a little bit small, the earpiece, yeah. I'm going to say, like Marcus has in there. But
Model myself on him.
Do you know what? He left no stone unturned, Allardyce. He brought a different approach, style of play, but it was actually, to get that collection of players, like, together. Jay Jay Okocha always sticks out. It's an obvious one, but you had to bring Djorkaeff after winning a World Cup, and Hierro, Fernando Hierro, Ivan Campo. These all played for Real Madrid and all, and played in successful Real Madrid teams.
Getting upset already.
They're just some of the players he brought in. I think the goalkeeper as well, Jaskaloinen, everyone used to love him, way.
They were absolutely class, weren't they? They really were. A 2 or 3 year period that we'll get into in a bit more detail, that they really were a good team and difficult to beat. The Reebok Stadium and all. I hated going there, and they turned United over famously a couple of times, and I'm sure that won't be the first time that we hear that phrase.
Definitely won't be lost.
Right, Marcus. Yeah. Let's start at the beginning then of what we shall call the glory days for Bolton. Take us back. Where do we start and who do we start with?
We'll just give a quick mention to Colin Todd, really. Obviously, the guy who was in charge just before Allardyce, because he built up a great side as well. Obviously, they were just fluctuating between the Prem and First Division, though, a couple of promotions, a couple of relegations, but we started getting like a Scandinavian influence on the team. I don't know whether you remember the players, like we had Michael Johansson out on the right, Klaus Jensen, Per Fransen, Johansson. Yeah, we had.
Yeah, that was a mad Scandinavian, wasn't there? John McGinley as well played for us, didn't he, in the Premier League? Remember him in the Mail and Premier League sticker books, yeah? Get John McGinley to complete Bolton.
Absolute legend.
And what time frame are you talking about, Marcus? What's his, like, mid-90s?
Yeah, well, he took over from Rioch. Rioch obviously got Portsmouth, go Arsenal. Toddy was like his understudy, and then he took over, and then obviously that's how Phil Brown started coming into the mix, and he ended up hanging around club as we go into Allardyce's reign. But he took straight over. His son were also part of the Bolton team, so obviously that made the integration a bit easier, I suppose. But my first matches, that's what I'm saying. I bring it to that one. My first live match were FA Cup against Spurs. At the old Burnham Park, which were a great stadium. Obviously, people they compare the atmosphere to the Reebok now, and it's nowhere near the same as Burnham. But obviously, Reebok became a fortress just because of the team that we built there. But I mean, he did a good job, and then it was just a bit of a dispute with Gartside, the infamous Gartside, and then they ended up selling Per Fransen to one of our rivals, obviously Blackburn, and Toddy just lost total confidence and faith in him then. So then
that was the end of him then.
That was the end of it, and then they turned to the big man, and I think they were bottom end at First Division. They were like 17th, 18th around that mark when he took over.
I was just about to ask. I was going to say, so like, at what level are we talking here? You're saying like a pretty poor Bolton side, probably for the last couple of years, is it?
Yeah, I won't so much say poor. They weren't performing to the standard of the team. They were easily one of the better sides in the league, but all the confidence and everything was shot as soon as Todd left, and just left in a bit of disarray, really. And then Big Sam were in the division below, maybe the one below that for Notts County.
Yeah.
We can't move on without mentioning big Mixu Pataloinen.
Oh, big Mixu.
He was a legend.
The big Finn. Yeah, he was indeed. Yeah, scored a couple of important goals, to be fair. There were a few players like that floating around at that time. De Freitas scored, did naff all really in the Bolton stop and scored two in a playoff final, so he redeemed himself.
He was your man with the long hair. Who was that? Was that him? Was it different?
Oh, Richard Sneakers that were in midfield.
Sneaks,
I tell you, he
was
a quality player though. Sneakers, he could play a bit.
This is pure.
Decent,
this is pure retro here, lads. Some of these names going out. I can honestly say now there won't be a podcast in the world that's going to mention those players that you just mentioned in the last.
They were actually cult heroes before the boys, though. They were legends, weren't they?
We had Chris Fairclough as well, Robbie. He used to play for you boys.
Chris Fairclough, he was a good player. He was,
Yeah, Nathan Blake. You've got to give a shout out to Blake. Big unit, big strong lad.
He was only a young flip Bolton, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was another one who got sold for a bit of money, and that's it. They started building for it. Allardyce basically that started again, to be fair.
I was just going to say, was there a nucleus of a team left behind for Allardyce, or was it a total rebuild?
No, he still had the likes of Good Johnson was still there, Dean Ullsworth, Klaus Jansen was still knocking about at that time. I can't believe we forgot Ida there, totally jumped that shit.
He
were way beyond us anyway, Ida. But I mean, we still had a really good. We had a lot of experience, Premier League experience with her as well. Like the likes of Neil Cox, he was skipper at side. Goody Bergson always go down in Bolton Folklore as one of the best defenders to play for him. And this Mark Fish with her still class player, South African. We got him from Lazio, and he was formidable. I was watching him at this point, and these are when I started picking me players out then, and then Ricardo Gardner had just made the transfer over. And obviously he's another one turned into a club legend.
I was just going to say, obviously coming into that period of, you're talking mid-90s, late 90s, you're starting to pick up players like that, like Ricardo Gardner. Yeah. Excellent player and some service at Bolton as well. Usually probably 10 years he gave to Bolton.
Yeah, more, mate. More. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so they're the type of signings that go under the radar, though, to a degree, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%.
As Robbie touched on, you can touch on the Okochas, the Nolans, the Davises, but the likes of Ricardo Gardner is probably held as high a regard to a degree with Bolton fans, as an absolute legend of the club.
Yeah, his consistency levels were absolutely unreal, and I mean, there was a point, obviously, to try and take the bias away from it, but for me, at one point, he was one of the best left-backs in Premier League. His form, what he was in, the pace he had, and his dribbling ability, because he can turn defence into attack so quick. A bit like these modern fullbacks now, what you see. Gardner were doing that 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
Yeah, it's absolutely class. And I remember him as well, the kind of the dreadlocks and all running down down the wing, attacking you. Gary Neville probably had nightmares about playing against him to a degree. Those couple of games that United had with Bolton in particular around that area were really, really good as well. But look, let's take it on a step. So, obviously, Big Sam has come in. He takes them from 17th. And what happens over kind of the next, say, 12, 18 months?
Right. So that season, obviously, he comes over. We're like 19th, and somehow he still manages to get us in the playoffs.
Where did he come from at that stage?
He come from Notts County. So basically, as soon as he knew Bolton were interested, obviously, his history with Bolton, he played for him for most of his career, and he loved the club. So he actually forced himself out of Notts County to get the deal done at Bolton. And
doesn't sound like Big Sam, does it?
No, it doesn't sound like Big Sam, but obviously he put his ideas towards Gartside, and to be fair, I don't even, in my personal opinion, I think they were just getting him in there as a safety net kind of thing. Well, you know what he's like, you know what he's done over his career, but he made us really hard to beat. He sorted the defence out, and as you know, with many of his teams, that's what he starts. He starts his base out, sets his stall out, makes them hard to beat, turns the home games into nightmares for away teams, and then tries to pick up points on road. And that's basically what he did, and he managed to scramble us into playoffs, and we finished really strong.
Yeah, Marcus, exactly, do you think he was an underrated manager?
100%. He's hard for me.
I kind of think he was. I don't know if we'll touch on it enough, or can you even do it justice?
I can. I believe so, because Well, I went to a sportsman's dinner, as we know, and we'll touch on that a few times as the show goes on. But I mean, he, like you touched on it, Robbie, he was the guy who started bringing the sports science into clubs and monitoring diets and how much body fat percentage of players got, and monitoring how far they run in games, statistics coming backwards and forwards. And then he also, one thing that he did say is he had the best scouting network in world football. That's his words. He said in world football. So he said when he left Bolton and he went elsewhere, these other scouts, they got poached by the likes of Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and stuff like that. So I mean,
crazy.
It just shows the pulling power he has there.
The proof is in the pudding, though, in terms of the players you were able to get.
Well, this is it. This is obviously that's where a bit of the backing is, and then you've got to remember, boys. I went watching them. I had a season ticket for all them years of his reign, and then a bit further after that. And I'm telling you, we got depicted as a long ball team, and it's incorrect. There's certain aspects of the game where they had to do it, where did it Davis or whoever, big target man up front, Allardyce's were to turn the opposition over as quick as we can, but there's no way you have the likes of Okocha, Djorkaeff, Nolan, Campo, Stelios,
playing long ball.
Playing long ball.
And I mean, at the 2004 squad here, lads.
Oh,
it's unbelievable. It would have the best five-a-side.
Yeah,
the best Masters. Anyway, best Masters team you could think of, the 2004 squad. I just think he was actually before his time with all that. I really do. I think I think that's why I'm surprised he's not back in management at some sort of decent level, because
he picks a pay packet up now, doesn't he? Because he's the best at what he does now. He has turned in to the get out of jail card for the likes of the bigger clubs who were struggling at bottom. You've seen it, Palace, Everton. They all went and called on him, and he did a job.
Yeah,
I just don't think he got a fair crack at the whip at an high level for me. And
no, obviously England.
I know the level of my team. Like, don't get me wrong, we're playing in Europe and stuff, but for me, he could have managed in and around Champions League teams at that point with the record and the job he'd done. Same as David Moyes. David Moyes got the nod. They were kind of doing the same thing. They weren't spending much money. Moyes were at Everton. He were building a good team. Allardyce were building a strong team at Bolton, and obviously Moyes went on, and obviously shame what happened to Moyes, but it's good to see him get back to where he is now, because he's another first-rate manager in my eyes.
Yeah, and look, getting back into Bolton and getting back into Big Sam. So, you know, he takes over Bolton. Obviously, has to do a bit of a rebuilding job, and you kind of yo-yo, don't you, for the first couple of years?
Oh no, He got us up to the playoffs, and then obviously we lost in the playoffs to Ipswich, and that were a famous game. Many Bolton fans will know that, where apparently people were knocking Berry Knight's door down and stuff like that, and it were a crazy game at Portman Road, but it were what it were. And then he started and built again, and then we got to the playoffs again the season after, and obviously we played Preston at Cardiff, and I'm sure you all see on Sky Sports because it goes down as one of the classic games.
Yeah,
and then obviously we thumped them 3-0.
3-0.
But we that day, even our lineup on that day, you could just tell the class different. I was there as well. You could just tell the difference in our team compared to Preston's. No disrespect, like they had Ely and John Mackin and what have you were scoring a few goals that season, but the nucleus of our team was so strong. I don't even know we didn't win league that year. I think Fulham blew everybody away with the likes of Saha and Boa Morte.
Yeah. They had big investment.
Blackburn had a really good squad as well with David Dunn, Damien Duff, and all them were coming through.
Great.
York.
And give us an idea of Bolton's team at that time. Sorry, Rob, just for you.
So obviously Brannigan kind of started getting phased out of the team as Yossi came in.
Brannigan.
Yeah, and Yossi came in then, but the only thing that let Yossi down early days were his kicking were atrocious. I mean, it become a bit of a joke between Bolton fans. He'd slice every single goal kick, but he'd get away with it because distribution out of his hands and his shot stopping were just at all different level.
Yeah.
And then you've got the likes of Bergson. We got Big Sam. These are the signings. What I mean, he got Colin Engineer for a season. And I mean, he was coming to the twilight of his career, I think 34, 35, but you just knew he'd been there at that high level, won a Premier League with Blackburn, really solid. Yeah. Simon Charlton at left back again, Premier League experience for Southampton. I think Tony Barnes were at right back at that point. And I mean, he were an average player, Tony, but he did a job.
if you think about it, all the signings were calculated, weren't they? When you look back, and they all had a part to play. Like, it wasn't just, get him in, he's won a Premier League, even though he's about 38. It was, he was brought in for a reason, maybe experience, all this kind of thing to speak. Was a good player.
He's a pure warrior, though, isn't he? As well, like, he's not he died on the pitch, like,
Called him brave.
Marcus, I think you're leading up to this, right? So I might round this bit for you, but I'm just reading here.
I'll let you
knock out through the 11.
Now, I'm just reading here, when he took over 99-2000, right, Colin Todd went mad. The board actually sold Claire Franson behind his back.
Yeah, but big Sam Bolton
Allardyce took over. Am I reading that right?
He did. This is what I mean.
He took them to the Worthington Cup semi-final, FA Cup semi-final, and the playoff semi-final when he took over.
The FA Cup semi-final against Villa.
I can't even remember that.
The FA Cup semi-final against Villa, we were literally inches away from getting to Dean Ullsworth. Ball gets squared across area, and all he has to do is put it in. And I mean, Dino's a bit
remember that, yeah.
Dino's a bit of a cult hero.
That was the last final at the old Wembley then. Chelsea beat Villa, didn't they?
It was, afterwards, And I mean, we lost on penalties too. We were unlucky. And I mean, Good Johnson were unreal that year. Good Johnson were unbelievable. This was the year before we got promoted as well. But as I mentioned, one of the best things Allardyce could have done, he went and got Franson had a bit of an unhappy 6 months at Blackburn. So Big Sam thought, I'll have him back, because instantly then amongst the Bolton fans, you bring him one of the best players back. Franson loves the team, loves the club. He with the spearhead of the midfield, and then Kevin Nolan had just come through in his breakthrough season, and he run real. Gardner's on left wing. Then Gareth Ferrelly, who scored in playoff final, always pops up with important goals. But the big one for me was Michael Ricketts.
Yeah.
When he signed Ricketts, he was centre midfield. He played in centre midfield for Walsall. And obviously, this is what you mean, where Allardyce looks at players and just sees things differently.
Yeah.
See, he were big, strong, quick, fast, and obviously seen some sort of finishing attributes. And I think he ended up with about 24 goals that season.
And just, you know what, I just stop you there for a moment and tell me if I'm wrong here, but did Allardyce not do that with Mikel Antonio at West Ham? He put him from right back to up front at one stage.
I believe,
on the right side of a tree.
Yeah, he's seen Kevin Davis attributes. Yeah.
You know, and look at Mikel Antonio now. I think he's
I think Antonio jokes about that, doesn't he? I think that he was a right fall.
He was a right fall, and I actually think now it could be starting to be corrected on it, but I have a feeling Allardyce either was in and around the team at that stage that he did it, or it was pretty much after he left that had happened. But sorry to interrupt you, but Michael Ricketts again.
Man.
Another player that, like Gardner, throughout the kind of next safe, stories that you'll tell, a consistent player and a big player for Bolton, like all the time, isn't he? Like, you
were guaranteed, obviously, when I was there watching, if he turned and started running at defenders, they didn't want to know, just because it's sheer size of him. I mean, you're talking, he's 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", but he could move like lightning.
Yeah.
But he was very, very good on the ball as well. And I mean, his goal scoring that year, and then obviously, as we move on, in the first season in the Premiership, I think he was one of the top scoring English players in the league. I think he got about 15, 16, which led up to his England call-up.
Yeah.
And then he deserted us.
Ridiculous. Which is ridiculous, though, when you think about it, that, like what Robbie says, okay, in the year before you get promoted, you're in 2 of the 3 domestic, you're in the 2 domestic cup semi-finals.
So you could see what you were building.
Semi-finals. So it absolutely is. He's already starting to kind of build that.
And that wasn't even his team, really. He inherited.
He did. So. Yeah. There weren't really many. Like I say, I think Colin Hendry is signing, and it could be a toss up with Ferrelly. I'm not too sure. I think he might have been there, Faz. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure Ricketts is signing, and then little odd signings like that. And I think he signed Dean Ullsworth. Maybe could have been Toddy on his way out. That, but it was just the way he had the team.
Yeah, absolutely class. And look, let's get into the meat of it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the
big stuff.
That I know that Jesus Christ, did not like playing them, and Alex Ferguson certainly didn't like playing them. Big Sam's Bolton, as you want to call it that. But yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
Just coming into this, Marcus, just before we start, actually, it kind of touches into it. I think I didn't read it fully, but he finished his playing career in America, did he? And he actually took how he got his management. It's saying here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
He actually, and it's funny because a touted manager now is at Bayern Munich, Nagelsmann.
Yeah.
And he's talking about basically what Allardyce was doing years ago with the earpiece. He's actually saying that the centre half should be hooked up, and
I've heard that.
to see that Allardyce actually takes most of his management stuff back from Tampa through what he learned from the American football. He starts implementing that, and it actually says it's a big advantage when they get promoted that no English club was thinking like this at all, really, at the time. So I probably ruined that for you.
No.
But yeah,
look,
it's great though. I think it's one of those iconic images though for me of the kind of post-millennium, Premiership with the headset and Sammy Lee or whoever it was beside him.
Always chewing gum as well.
Always, but a larger than life bloke as well. I have to say I like Allardyce, but look, let's get into it. I mean,
sorry lads, there's actually a name on it. It's called Prozone. It's actually given a name and all. And Steve McLaren actually will say copied it with Charlie.
Terribly.
It did, bad example.
Well, at the start he was very good. It actually got him to United. They're saying here.
Saying that, he was manager at Middlesbrough when they beat us in cup final, so I can't say too much.
True.
And Ferguson used it in 98-99 when McLaren came on board. So
treble,
that's what won the treble, was it, Frozen?
Yeah, Steve McLaren, mate.
Right, Marcus, take it away. Let's bring us into Big Sam's Bolton properly.
Yeah, so obviously, I'll just take you to expectations that season for Bolton when we first came up. Now, don't get me wrong, we didn't make many signings. Again, little off-key signings like Rodney Wallace came in, who used to play for Leeds back in the day, Robbie.
Legend.
And he's just been playing great in Scotland for Rangers and what have you. We've seen that as a really good signing, which it was for 12 months or so. And then you started seeing these foreign exports coming in. Akinori Nishizawa came in from Japan. Not a lot we knew about him, but he came with a big following. So then you start thinking, is he starting for market over in Asia and stuff like that, being clever, because that's just the way that he is. And so expectations. We thought we knew we were going to struggle and it were going to be tough, but we did know we could get the pickings of a few teams, and we actually started off really well. We beat Leicester 5-1 at Filbert Street on first game of season. Franson bagged 2, Ricketts, Nolan got a couple, and then we managed to pick Liverpool. I think it read the third game. It was a famous mistake by Vesterveld, and I don't think he ever played for Liverpool again after that. But as the season went on, obviously a famous victory at Old Trafford, Tomo. I'll remind you of that one there, 2-1. Let's move on. Ricketts gambled on a standard Wes Brown mistake and fired past Bertez.
That was a great finish as well.
It was indeed. But
what year is this, lads? This is
2002, 2004, 2001, 2,
yeah.
And then
so at this stage as well, though, you're talking United on a bit of a downward spiral.
Arsenal were the team.
Arsenal were really, but you still have bleeding Roy Keane and Scholes and everything else. But as you say, that to beat a Liverpool, then I think Liverpool won their 5 trophies the year before, wasn't it? 2001 around then. So
2000, 2001 was it? They won.
So I mean,
102 could have been.
We did well. We did well in against the bigger teams that year. To be fair, I think we nicked a 1-1 draw at Highbury as well. I remember Ricketts lobbing Seaman, and that's when they were the games that in the end kind of kept us in the league.
Yeah,
and then obviously this is where his scouting network started to come into fruition. So we'll move on to 2002, 2003, and this is where the big boys started coming in waves really. And for me as a Bolton fan, it were kind of pinch yourself. Pinch yourself tackle.
I was going to say we're not allowed to mention the fact that you beat United again.
Season after 1-0 Nolan. Yeah, I remember that. Good assist by Beckham as well, actually.
Yeah, West Brown and Beckham playing for Bolton.
That's it. But so this is where we kind of see Allardyce's stuff going on in the background. Djorkaeff came in. I think it was originally on a loan deal. Just to try and make the World Cup squad in 2002, because he were in and out. He were at Kaiserslautern at the time, and he weren't getting much game time. So you're talking
But just to get your thoughts on that a little bit more, Marcus, though, like you say, Kaiserslautern, right? Not exactly a great German team,
no,
at all.
Well, again,
he's a World Cup winner. So, is there much excitement about a signing like that?
Well, I'll relate to my dad in this aspect. Obviously, I were a football fan. I'm coming up 12, 13 at that age. Obviously, I knew who Djorkaeff were. I were an avid football fan, but more my dad's age at that point knew how big this signing were because they'd seen him on that international level since mid-90s. And you're talking, he's sharing a midfield with Zidane constantly, international level. In Italy, they nicknamed him Le God, Inter Milan. When they won the European with Ronaldo, Djorkaeff were playing in that team.
And he was massive in '98.
Oh, he had a massive reputation.
That's what I mean. The only reason I ask is because that it's kind of 4 or 5 years after all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, what age was he when Bolton?
Oh, he was 30. He was 33. 33.
Yeah.
When he came over, this is what I was saying about the sports science and that. Obviously, people were thinking, well, he's going to be on a decent wage and he's coming up to like mid-30s. Is it a wise idea? But he'd never really had any bad injuries. He's always fit. And then Allardyce came out then and said he could play in Premier League till he was 40-year-old. He had 7% body fat. Djorkaeff.
Ridiculous.
And but like their lifestyle and all, they never really drank. Like Cantona was the first to kind of show everyone that, you know what I mean? And you can see it now. You know, the foreign players just had a different kind of way of doing it.
He was the first one. And then I think Bruno Ngotti came on loan as well. And I mean, Bruno were a big signing again. You're talking play for AC Milan, won European Cup with Marseille, play for PSG.
Legend.
Again, so once the fans could see that they were attracting these types of players, the whole mood around the place changed. And then obviously, as we know, Djorkaeff you could just tell the guy had levels. For me, obviously I love Okocha and he does get all the plaudits of being probably Bolton's greatest player alongside Nat Lofthouse and the likes of McGinley and stuff with fan folklore, but Djorkaeff were the one for me. He opened the gates, Djorkaeff, when he came over, and then we ended up signing him permanently, so he knew he could stay here. And then the likes of Okocha's looking and going, well, Djorkaeff signing, so he can't be that bad, can it?
He was such a baller, though. Djorkaeff, he was one of them that
his first touch were just joke-worthy.
I do think about teams in that sort of era, and Robbie, you'll be the same. I know Leeds at that time obviously were going down, but Djorkaeff was absolutely, he could have signed for United.
Yeah,
he would have played. That way he could have signed for an Arsenal or whatever, or the Chelsea or Liverpool. He was one of them players that you knew he's too good for Bolton.
Yeah,
but he actually made Bolton good. Do you know what I mean?
It's actually mad that he actually signed for Bolton. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it might sound a bit, like I'm contradicting myself. Like, oh yeah, but he was 33, he was this and that. But that's as you were saying, Mark, the expectation when he came in, but to what he actually delivered, was just ridiculous levels. Like as you say, it was just incredible. And but
it just goes to show how good these fellas were and how professional, doesn't it?
Unbelievable.
It's not just coming for a jolly up or
it's like Nolan said it. You can imagine Nolan were 18, 19-year-old, and he said, and all of a sudden he's sharing a changing room with a World Cup winner and a European Cup winner, and then Bruno Ngotti's there, and then there's all this talk going on in press of Jay Jay coming signing, and sometimes he just said, they were in awe of Djorkaeff, so you can imagine the confidence it gave the team. I think there were one game, it was the season we actually stayed up, our first season. We got him for the last 6 months, I think it were. And the one defining game, what I always remember, is we were 2-0 down against Arsenal at Reebok. And Djorkaeff came on. I think he came on for the last 40 minutes, and he just turned the game on. He turned the game on its head. He turned the game on its head.
Wenger going mad at Sam Allardyce.
Shock horror,
yeah.
No, but
sticking it to Arsenal at the Reebok.
It were my favourite game because they never fancied it. Obviously, it was a long journey from south up to us, and then sometimes it'd get drawn on a Tuesday night as well, and it'd be freezing. and you just knew Big Sam in changing room just going, let's smash these fuckers. They won't be interested in what's going on.
And I was just about to say, though, as much as Bolton and we're talking about the football they played, you were dirty fuckers at times.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is what I mean.
Really
this is the genius behind it. He knew the games in which to do it in, and he did it at the right times. He played to our advantages because, like I say, the first season we come on 17th. So if we start moving on briefly, like the likes of Okocha comes through the door, and he was injured for the first 3 or 4 months, so we didn't even see him. So it was kind of a wasted investment. But at that time, people started going, oh, well, we're paying these wages. Because you're talking, these were starting coming into 20, 30 grand a week now, these. And, you know, our clubs...
Big money for
big money for us, yeah. Well. Big money. And obviously, there are risks, because if it doesn't pay off, you end up sliding down leagues. And Robbie, you as well know, as well as me now, it can go the opposite way and you can end up flat on your face. And obviously it did further on down the line, but at that time is what we're on.
But it did pay off though, didn't it, really?
Were they on big wages, Marcus?
Well, you see, you compare it to, for a club our size, nobody had even seen that sort of money getting thrown about, you know. And again, Okocha were the biggest earner, I believe, at that time. And then you've got the likes of...
And as I say, you're talking 35,000 a week.
Yeah, if not more. You're talking bonuses, because the first season he came up, there would have been a lot of keepers in Premier League bonuses and stuff like that. And I mean, again, 6 months into the season, we're in a bit of a dogfight again. Okocha came back from injury though, and then the rest is history, because that second half of that season, he was just... He ran another planet. I know this is a Legends podcast, and we spoke about Ronaldinho last time. That's the kind of influence he had for that brief 4 or 5 months. And I mean, he was fit.
Yeah, I think he might get one on his own.
He could do indeed.
He got a portion of Ronaldinho. He has an episode now. He's not getting one on his own, lads. Come on.
I mean, I agree
with you, Marcus.
Yeah.
Anyone that, you know, for me, definitely, of watching United in that era and Premier League in general, he was the man. He was Bolton's man. He was everything about Bolton. Him and Kevin Davis, they're the two for me that always stand out. You know, but he was like what Gerrard was for Liverpool. He was what, you know, Lampard, Roy Keane. You know, he was absolutely everything for Bolton.
And I mean, this is where you start seeing the change, because obviously fans are getting entertained. We've seen what he did against Arsenal at Reebok. This is 2-2 in a game in a season where we're trying to stay up from relegation, and he's in corner doing rainbow flicks and flicking it over Keown's head and making mugs out of Parlour. But
the Arsenal game was unreal, wasn't it?
Us as fans were just... My dad touched me a few times and tapped me on the shoulder and just said, just look at this, because you may never come across this again. And this was just at this point. Oh,
it's a genius.
Yeah, and it just went from strength to strength then. And I'll just give a couple of shouts out before we move on. There were other players as well, like Bernard Mendez, we got on loan from PSG. And he is the fastest player I've ever seen. The fastest player I've ever seen. And he came in at right back, and we started getting a bit of pace injected in the team then, and then you started seeing a bit of home form. We started beating Newcastle. Remember the famous game against West Ham? It was like a shootout for who went down. Okocha scored the great goal where he picked it up on halfway line, left Joe Cole in his wake. And I mean, that's when the whole atmosphere changed. And even Big Sam kind of said, if we can get through this season, then I've got things lined up where we can start progressing. And it did. From that moment onwards, people didn't want to come down to Reebok anymore, because we were just very, very tough to beat, and we just got stronger at that point. And then he started making more big physical signings. Campo came in, and we all know what Campo did at the beginning. He was like a deer in headlights when he first started playing. You didn't know what he was going to do, whether he was going to put that to the striker or kick it into his own net. But then he was playing at centre half. Big Sam obviously seen something in him in training, moved him in front of back four. And again, I'll say it, Makelele's were playing in Premier League at that time. Keano might have still been there, but he were up there in front of back four. Campo, one of the best players for sitting in front of a back four at that time.
Yeah,
we don't give credit though, do we? Really, as fans,
no chance
of your own club.
No,
you know, I wouldn't even have Campo in the top 50. You know that way.
Yeah, he's fair. He's
underappreciated. You know that way in terms of it. But it's only when you do think back, Rob, though, isn't it, as well? And there's so many players off that Bolton team as well that you could pick out.
He was brilliant in that
role.
They
were brilliant.
He was class in that role. And obviously, he had to be in. We are moving into 2004, Marcus, is it? This is where... Just on Okocha, though, it's one of the only times I can actually think in football that I've actually seen a footballer lift a team. He was actually captain as well, and
Big Sam made him captain of the year after, yeah.
I can't imagine he was in the dressing room riling people up, or kind of talking to people on the pitch. Just through pure football, he actually changed the games for them, dictated, and pure skill. It's actually that goes so unnoticed, or it doesn't get said enough that he actually, he was able to dictate how the season played out, as you said, or through actual pure skill.
Yeah, he had it all in his hands.
It was like playing on the road, basically. Do you know what I mean? With his mates.
Well, I mean, I'll take you back to the long ball thing again. Like I say, I was there. You talk it. This player had the skill set of some of the greats who's played the game. They've all come out. Yeah. I mean, some of the days there were a game against Tottenham where the Bolton fans were singing "It's like watching Real Madrid," and the first half gets honestly, the first half gets documented as the best first half of football Bolton fans have ever seen. And Campo scored from about 40-odd yard out. I think you might remember it. But Okocha's just drilling passes 40, 50 yard across pitch to feet. But then managers would be on like Martin Yol or Benitez at that time just going, they play a long ball onto wings. It's not. It's a long pass. That's what it is. It's not a long ball. It's not aimless. He knows what he's doing.
So he knew what they were doing. Scholes and Gerrard made
exactly.
Passes like that.
These are the frustrations Allardyce had put up with at that time. Why do you think you're arguing with Wenger and Benitez all the time?
And where did Okocha exactly play, though, in your 11? He kind of just
had a free role, didn't he?
He played where he wanted to play. Nobody told him where he was playing. Sometimes he'd be in front at back four, just picking ball up off Campo if Campo weren't spreading it. Or other times, he was
genuinely was.
Oh, yeah, he were on left. Dribbling, cutting inside, doing his stuff. You were everywhere.
It's funny that you mentioned the long pass, Marcus, because we touched on it there with the difference Van Dijk has made to Liverpool and Mane in particular.
Yeah.
Van Dijk is brilliant at that. Yeah. And he puts teams on the back foot, as Allardyce used to say. But he's finding Mane all the time, and Mane fully tuned up and running in behind the defender. There's nothing probably worse. And same with Salah, do you know that way? They're different kind of fish, and it's actually just his passing ability that gets so underrated as well.
This is it, because they used to seeing that team passing in front of them. They used to seeing the short tiki-taka passing in front of them. So if a defender can turn the centre-backs with a 60, 70-yard ball, what they're not expecting because they're too busy watching the midfielders for picking the ball up, when it works, it's unreal. When it doesn't, they're playing long ball.
Exactly. I was just about to say it's when 2 or 3 passes go right, and then they start saying, they're just lumping it. Like at this stage now, Marcus, you're talking, Mourinho has come into the league and very, very vocal about Allardyce as well at times over the style of play and some big games against Chelsea. I think they won the league, didn't they?
Twice they won the league.
Against Bolton as well.
Yeah.
So,
I think just before that is their best season, isn't it? 2003, 2004.
Yeah, we finished sixth. We finished sixth. I think it might be 4 or 5. We ended up finishing 6th, but then that led on to 3 consecutive seasons of finishing top 8. Now, for a team of our stature and the actual, we didn't even spend no money hardly, and that started riling teams up. You know what I mean? Because they were going out spending hundreds of millions, and they were turning up, and we were making Arsenal look like kids. And they had I remember a game just before the next Galactico set. We had a player called Abdoulaye Faye. I don't know if you ever remember him, absolute physical specimen. And we beat him 1-0 on a Tuesday night at home. And he played in front of back four. I think Campo were injured at the time. And all the newspapers were saying that he were Allardyce's Vieira and all that. That's how dominant he were in that game. He's another one who gets overlooked again.
And just actually as well, are you talking? Is this the League Cup final season, or is this post-League Cup final season?
Yeah, no, it is.
2004.
It is post. This is the season after, but the post
So
the league.
this is 04-05, and Mourinho is in the league.
Mourinho's there. This is his special special season.
Yeah, so
they only lost once, didn't they? That season, Chelsea, I think, his first season, was it?
Yeah.
So this season that you're talking about now, you're off the back of finishing 8th in the Premier League. Yeah. You've been beaten in a League Cup final, and now you're going into a season where then you actually finish 6th that year.
Yeah, so and we're playing European football.
Playing European football. This is
just the pinnacle.
Like, this is absolutely incredible. Like, I don't think people can know. This is like on a smaller scale to what Leicester did. You know, you didn't win the league, but you're in the top 6 in England, where 5 or 6 years previous you were way out. You know what I mean?
Oh, and playing 17th, 16th.
Yeah.
Just looking at it here, they finished on the same amount of points as Liverpool.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was on the last day. We could have got Champions League football.
The year Liverpool, I was just about to say, they won the Champions League that year or the year after. So, I mean, that's...
So, literally, they finished 3 points off 4th, and Everton actually got 4th.
Yeah, they did,
and couldn't play because Liverpool won the Champions League.
Yeah. No, but that's what... It's always stats like that, Rob, what you've just said there, that puts it into perspective.
Yeah. 100%.
Because it's very easy to say, they finished 6th. It's like, it's only 6th. Yeah, but they finished on the same points as the team who won the Champions League. You know what I mean? Like, and that you're like, whoa. They finished 3 points off Champions League football under Sam Allardyce. No disrespect to him, but as you say, Marcus, low budget, signing bargains, reaching the League Cup final the year before. This is like, as you said yourself, and as your dad said to you, you'll never see this again with Bolton, probably for another generation. That way that hopefully is still come back. But if we stop from the timeline and just pause and just say, as a fan, in that moment and in those matches and everything, that has to be like the best you've ever felt as a football fan.
To me, obviously, we'll see how it goes. We're in a good place again now at the moment, but long way for it go. But to me, it'll never be matched. And even as my dad again, we'll bring it to me and my mates who are Bolton fans. You're talking, we're playing Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla, and Marseille in UEFA Cup. We're going to Allianz Arena and drawing 2-0 with a Bayern Munich team what's got Podolski, Klose, Lucio. It's just Ballack we're playing at that. I think it's just it's crazy. And we were the better teams in majority of them games. We knocked Atletico out of Europe. Jesus, and I think it were a known fact that just before Chelsea, I think, who did them this season's Champions League, we were the only team to not come out and not lose in Madrid.
Jesus, but this is what I'm saying. Like, this is the period of Bolton that you were a serious team, a really, really serious team. You turned up every weekend expecting to beat everyone.
Yeah, especially at Reebok. If we got beat at Reebok or even drew, this is where the expectancy were changing. If we got beat at Reebok or somebody turned up, don't get me wrong, the likes of yourselves came there a couple of times and pasted us, or at Chelsea did a couple of times when they were on there. But I'd say we only got beat 2 or 3 times, two to three seasons at home. We were formidable at home, really formidable.
Oh yeah, big time.
And around this period as well, is this your, Davis, Nolan? Is Gary Speed in at this stage?
Speed starts coming in. Another one who people forget, Hidetoshi Nakata signed. And I mean, he were another one on a world football level. He were up there.
Nakata,
yeah, picked him up again on a Bosman. And I mean, I think he only ended up playing about 18, 19 games. Good, because we had it. I think we signed him for European football basically because of his experience. But again, his fitness levels when he was running on pitch were an absolute joke. It was insane the amount he used clock.
Good old Joey O'Brien.
Joey O'Brien had come in at right back.
The Lord Celtic man.
Yeah, well, he came in. Nicky Hunt got injured in a game because Nicky Hunt were on cusp of England team at that point. He were playing. He were up there as one of the better right backs in the league. Don't ask me how, but he were playing really well.
He's fucking huge as well, wasn't he, Nicky?
Yeah, but he was good on the ball, Nicky, and he just got some real consistency. Allardyce just give players belief, do you know?
Yeah.
He's well known and he's renowned for getting the best out of players. Like Djorkaeff is a prime example.
Is Djorkaeff in at this stage?
Djorkaeff is there now on loan,
Yeah.
basically going to make it a permanent signing. Speedo, we paid, I think it were, people could back me wrong or look up on it, I'm sure it were 350 to 500 grand for Gary Speed. And Big Sam said at Sportsman's Dinner, what I went to, that's the best money he's ever spent in football. And I mean, Gary Speed was 34, 35 at that time. I was
just going to say, Speedy's about 35 at that stage.
He would fit his player on pitch.
Excellent footballer.
Undervalued, so good in the air, unbelievable in the air.
And correct me if I'm wrong as well.
He had a very good career.
Fernando Hierro's come in. He's here as well at this stage. But again, it's like trying to just build a picture for people that, you know,
750,000, Marcus. It's telling me he was.
Right, so I mean, but anyway, it's a bargain.
yeah. But like you think of
Gary Speed
just added onto that though as well. Speed, Hierro, Djorkaeff, you know, on top of what you already had. You know that way, and you're saying
I'll give you a good one.
Crazy.
Blessing Kaku.
Oh yeah, the Nigerian midfielder. Yeah, think he played one or two games. What are you talking again?
Play? Never heard of him. He has to go down a sports question definitely down the line.
I could list them all. You know,
probably been something to do with Okocha. He's Nigerian.
Yeah, probably his cousin or something.
Club.
Yeah, probably his cousin.
Vincent Candela as well. That's a good one, isn't it?
Again, 6 months. We had him for 6 months, and he played at left back, right-footed left back. What a player! We tried getting him at the end. This shows how big we were. We tried signing him, and obviously he went to Roma, I think, or Udinese, or someone he signed for after. Oh, he was at Roma, and I think he went to Udinese instead of signing for us. Because
a cracker from the season before, we let this one go under the radar. Mario Jardel.
It were a cracker.
Yeah.
Right, so obviously we all football lovers know his goal record, Mario Jardel, and I mean when he turned up to us, he were about 18 stone, looked like a panda in Bolton kit, and I mean he was awful. They were snapping shots of him in McDonald's, and then he just went AWOL and stuff like that. He were unreal. Again, he just showed the player that we could attract though. I think
I can't actually remember, Marcus. Did Ferdinand do much for us now?
He scored against United, so he'll do for us.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, yeah, but, look, lads, let's move it on, okay?
Yeah, go on.
This is you're at your peak now, and you're Bolton, and this is just an absolute bleeding fairy tale. You know, let's go over the hill, okay? Let's start talking about the players that come in. Like Anelka is obviously not too far behind at this stage, Marcus, either.
No, yeah. Well, obviously, as the European finishes started coming, the club then, the fans even started asking, "Come on, let's start throwing a bit. We must have a bit of money behind us now. We're getting into Europe. Yeah, let's we could attract players, you know, and let's start giving Big Sam some cash. He's built this squad basically on nothing, pittance.
Yeah, back on
and imagine what he could do with money, you know.
Yeah,
and then like I say, 8 million, I think we got Anelka for, and then obviously he come with this reputation. We all know lay sulk and all that. If game's not going his way, a bit like Balotelli reminds you of, a bit like Martial now. When you see Martial,
okay.
But I've got to say, when he had a Bolton top on, he was tremendous for us. He really were.
I remember he signed for you, and I was a bit like, what? Like Arsenal, Liverpool, Real Madrid. Now, fair enough. I think was he with Fenerbahce or someone like that?
He were. Yeah.
So, he was a bit out in the wilderness,
mad, wasn't he?
Out in the wilderness, but then to Bolton, I was like, look, I think Bolton fans themselves probably said it's a stepping stone to get back to a bigger team.
Yeah, we said that.
But we absolutely rinse him for all he's worth. Get as many goals, get as much money for him. But he was really, really good for Bolton.
He just shows the pulling power, doesn't it, of Allardyce?
That's it. And I mean, again, going into Allardyce, obviously this is what it's about as well. But the Sportsman's Dinner, what he used to do with these sorts of players, and he tried it with Rivaldo. We nearly signed Rivaldo and Juan Pablo Sorin. I don't know if you remember him. Allardyce, just he'd get him on a plane, he'd make his own way to the airport at Manchester to meet him there in a limousine, pick him up, make it all swanky, come back to the stadium and what have you. That's how the Okocha signing, he actually flew out to Paris after the World Cup and met him there himself and basically threw his ideas to him, and Okocha were like, I've got to do it. Just listening to him. So again, like you say, the pulling power, he was behind every single one of them big signings. He had the scouting network who picked up and say, oh yeah, he's running out of contracts in 4 months, whatever. We can lodge a contract offer for him or maybe snare him away for when the end of his deal comes. And then Allardyce would get a list of who he wanted and who he could get. He'd go in and speak to Gertside and say, this is your budget. Go and find what you can or do what you want with that budget. And he was just the best at doing it. Yeah, the only reason we lost out on Rivaldo was because there was a leak in the team. Now, I don't know if you know this story, but it's about Bolton, so I'll fill you in. Simon Charlton was actually the leak who leaked it to the papers that Rivaldo was on his way over to Manchester for Bolton to sign him, and he ruined the deal. Right. He ruined the deal. And then obviously you can imagine what happened after that. Simon Charlton gone. Gone. Oh yeah, he was gone.
He was moved out of Bolton under probably security, I imagine.
Just let me. Why would that ruin it though? If I'm probably being silly asking that, am I?
It was probably project, was it?
Yeah. The likes of Celtic came in, Olympiacos then came in, who were playing Champions League football at that time. Obviously,
and paying big money probably. That's where he went, was it?
Threw more money at him, and I mean, can you imagine if we'd have made that signing? Rivaldo, Okocha, and Djorkaeff in the same team. It's crazy even thinking. I always pinch myself now. I still do it to this day. And obviously, me and my dad reminisce and doing this like when we reminisce. But I don't beat myself up about it. A lot of Bolton fans at the moment, they might jump on this, but they still think that we got some God-given right to be where we are because of where we were at that stage. Whereas instead of just appreciating what they saw at that time, because some clubs never get that, especially a club of ours. We are a big club, but I mean, with the size of the money and stadium and stuff, to have seen the team that we've seen over them years and the players, they should just be grateful and thankful, It's just, it is what it is. And then, like I say, then Anelka comes through the door, and then me growing up, you remember 98, 99 for Arsenal, he practically won them league, didn't he? Or the season before, 97, 98.
I was trying to say that's blasphemy thinking they won anything in
the treble season, but you mean
with Real Madrid and that,
and he's just, and like I said, when he donned the Bolton shirt, he was phenomenal. We beat Arsenal 3-1, and then it's then when we were talking about long passes, the third goal that day, Campo just plays a 40-yard pass along floor, splits the defence in two, and Anelka rolls it in corner. That night, for me as a Bolton fan, when we beat them 3-1 Saturday night, that's the pinnacle there, that game. I'd be interested to see how many Bolton fans, if you had to ask them what their moment is, but that was the night where I looked at my dad and I was just in awe of what were in front of me, the team that were in front of me, and the way that we played football.
This is like 2006-07, Marcus.
This is where we're on the brink of just top four, and then now we'll move on just quickly to how Allardyce's time came to an end, because if you can imagine, it were quite abrupt. If you remember, we went and got a 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge. I think we did one of you boys a favour, or we did one of the big boys a favour that day. We actually did you a favour, Thomas, because I remember Fergie saying he were going to get Allardyce a drink.
A bottle of champagne or whatever.
Yeah.
I think United won the league, didn't they? Wigan
they did. And we went.
I remember we were actually still playing Wigan, and it's very famous footage, and Ferguson runs up to the players and goes like that, and he goes 2-2. Yeah, that was the Chelsea game, and that was it. We only needed a point out of our last two games then or something to win the league. But yeah, right, it was that game.
Well, and what it were is, again, like I told you, Allardyce had this scouting network. Do your research, boys, and look into it, because they were the best. He went into Gertside. This is where it changed. This is what he was saying on the Sportsman's Dinner, because apparently they had a bit of acrimonious relationship in this towards the end. But Allardyce said it was nonsense. He just said they were always friends, but they just parted on a business way. So he walks into the changing room. I think we were fifth. We were even fourth with about 5 games left, on the cusp of Champions League football. And Big Sam said, we can get a player called, it could have been the season before, there's a player knocking about at Mallorca for 6-7 million. We can get him, and if we sign him, he might not necessarily stay at the club, but we can make treble the money on what he'll be. It was Samuel Eto'o.
Was it?
It were Eto'o. Season after he went to Barcelona, and then he came in with 2 more. This is one for you, Tomo. Patrice Evra, Nemanja Vidic. Big Sam goes in to get outside. I found these players. Give me 10 million, 15 million. We'll spend a bit on them. They'll get us into Champions League, and then we can move forward then. And get outside, turned around and said, nah.
Yeah, United signed him in the January, yeah.
Goes to the United, and he turned around. That's what it was. That's what it killed Allardyce eventually, was the job that he'd done. He did deserve that money. Do you know what?
Like that then, let's call it as it is. That's fairly sizable money though. If you're asking for, 8 million for Anelka, 10 million for this player, 15 million, it does add up. But for what he had delivered, he deserved that.
100% he deserved it.
More than deserved it, And
every single Bolton fan felt his frustration.
Yeah.
And I never forget the day when he left. Obviously, he one of the hardest days for a Bolton fan, because to me, even my dad will say the same thing again. Obviously, I revert to him a lot, but you just knew it was only going to go one way after that departure, because bit like Fergie, bit like Wenger, they are massive shoes to fill.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we now, I think it's Sammy Lee kind of takes over, doesn't he? Just for the
it was a shame for Sammy. It was a shame for Sammy. He had a lot of enthusiasm. Great assistant manager, great coach, not a manager, as we found out. He was well out of his depth. And again, I think Megson came in. Megson actually made some great signings again, and we got a decent team. Megson were good at keeping teams in the league, but we've just gone from 3 consistent seasons and playing European football to then just watching us fall down the league, and players were leaving, players were getting sold behind the back. Nolan got sold behind the back. So then people then wanted to get outside out at club, and this is where the bad vibe started, and it just
unraveled, didn't it? Like I think one of the big ones for me was Anelka, 15 million to Chelsea in the January of the following year, and it was a bit like, right, he was always going to move. I think as we said earlier on, he probably felt it was a stepping stone anyway, but it just signalled the end, didn't it?
Because we've always been a selling club, because we can't compete with you boys, But I mean, at that time, this is what I'm saying. Allardyce was just looking for a bit of backing, just saying, "Look, we've held our own with these big teams, Bayern Munich, Atletico, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. We were up there, mix of them, right up until near the ends of the season. So why can we not be that team who can just go that bit further?" But obviously, nobody knows the finances or what went on, and as we can tell, Rob. Go on, Rob.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because you look at the Leicester City model now, and you're thinking, if Bolton had that attitude, where would they be today? You know what I mean? Definitely still in the Premier League anyway, 100%. If they had given Allardyce for, I think that's a great model, the Leicester City model. They seem to have some great scouting mechanism now, and they're not afraid to sell the player, but they sell them at the right price, and plus they seem to just keep churning them out as well, don't they? That's
the way tomorrow. Southampton have done it. Southampton have been great
at
picking up youngsters.
Do you know that way?
I think we were still in that kind of climate, as Thomas reverted to before, even though it doesn't seem a lot of money, because it doesn't seem a lot of money compared to nowadays. But even when you're talking 8 million for Anelka, and then chuck us another 15 million, give us another 6 million, and we can get this. And you don't know what our wage structure is then. And we're only in a 28,000 seat stadium, so our income isn't going to be Old Trafford or
stadium,
And as you say, though, if those players don't work out, that potentially puts you back a year or two, transfer-wise, And I was actually interested while you were speaking there, and you're talking about Allardyce not getting the money. I just looked at Bolton's transfer activity, and afterwards, 2004,
it was shocking.
Not even if we go back 2004, from that season on, you only signed like 2 players for like 4 years, because he had his team. So the 2008 was the time to regenerate. It had been about 4 years since he had bought players consistently. So it's a terrible decision by the chairman or the owner, Gartside, as I said at the time. And who knows You know, this is the thing about football. Who knows where Bolton would have been?
Because he threw money. He threw money at Megson. Then after that, this is what Bolton fans could understand.
Trying to make up for it, wasn't he?
Yeah, they signed Elmander, Gary Cahill, Steinsford, Klasnitz, Martin Petrov. They started throwing. Yeah. We had a good team. Again, we had a great squad, but they just the whole self-belief went out of the full everything. The fans, the stadium. I'm sure Bolton fans have backed me up on that. And then obviously we move. Coyle gave us a bit of lift for a bit because he played for Bolton and he'd done well with Burnley and he started well. He got us to an FA Cup semi-final and then he made a decision.
That was a big managerial decision though for him at the time. I remember there was a lot of animosity at that time. Like I know Burnley is not exactly too far away from Bolton either, but specifically around the Owen Coyle thing because Burnley were doing well. That year as well, they were really, really good, and they'd only got promoted as well. So that was a big kick in the teeth for them. And just to put in perspective, like the Allardyce effect, that I was just looking at the tables. The year that Allardyce left, or the few games before he ended up finishing, I think it was 7th or 8th. He finished 16th the year later.
There you go.
Under Lee, and obviously Megson came in halfway through. So that's 10 positions, you know, or more that you've drifted down. So that must have been a massive shock to the system.
Of course it is. And then there you go, Robbie. That's the answer to your question, whether people think he's underrated or not. Because if you see, obviously, after that, he went to Newcastle. They tiffed him out at the door. They were 10th. They ended up getting relegated. He went to Blackburn. Yeah. They tiffed him out at the door. They were like 8th or 10th. They got relegated.
Steve King.
It's just, so that's what I mean. It's people, managers get the blame. Let's be honest, boys. We see it. Week in, with Moyes, obviously we're out for Moyes, but he gets crap. Nobody, Germans don't get blamed. Players don't get blamed. But that's the effect of what it can do. And then the day Allardyce walked out of that door is the reason why Bolton are where they are now. There's no questions about it. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, the wage budget he built up and the money that we spent, that hasn't helped us. But at that moment in time, you're in Europe. A team who were 19th in Championship. They're in Europe for the 3rd season consecutively. Yeah, with some of the
unbelievable,
unreal. The only thing I can think of is Leeds was quite fresh, so you could see maybe from a chairman's point of view, you know, do you throw the money at it? Do you just end up like another Leeds? He obviously didn't think. You know, how long did they stay in the Premier League after that? A good 6 or 7 years.
5 years, was it?
5 years, but I mean, it was 5 years of struggling, and I mean struggling.
Yeah.
Well, even just from a Leeds point of view, Marcus, I would have, like, at the time, given anything to be struggling in the Premier League.
Don't get me wrong. I'd happily be there now. But I mean,
like it took us 16 years to get back there,
and then we just started.
It will happen for years as well. We haven't done anything. We haven't done a Man City or and got taken over by a big billionaire, that owns a country and all. It's just able to throw loads of money at it. We've had to be inventive. We've had to do a lot of things that Allardyce did, I think, at the start by the sounds of things,
And let's not beat around it. We nearly had no club. It was literally that close. Bury went that day, and it could have been us. I just think the pure reputation.
That's what I was going to move on to, actually. I was going to say, like, obviously we know it becomes a downward spiral, fighting in the Championship, League 1, League 2. And as you said, Marcus, you're a matter of hours, maybe days from going bust, isn't it?
I was there that day. It were hours. And I just, obviously, Sharon Britain's come in now, and this is we'll delve it. We'll have a quick brief thing at the end of where we are at now. But the enormity of that situation at that moment in time for a fan, for a Bolton fan as well, especially. I mean, it was heartbreaking. It was just literally spending from the age of like 8 all the way to now. My Saturday's based around what my team does, as we all are as football fans, And then for them to be saying on news that after today, they won't exist. And literally, I think our reputation aided us a little bit because we're one of the football founding members. And obviously, it's easy to sit here because obviously I love them, but we are a big club. I don't care what anybody says there. Not so much in stature of stadium or whatever. But you just look at our stadium and look at the league that
history,
we're in now.
It's history.
It's the history and
you know,
all
as
that.
you said
What comes with
yourself,
it.
58 Nat Lofthouse FA Cup. You know what I mean? Like that, those sort of things people don't forget. Proper football fans don't forget.
Yeah.
You know, those sort of those facts and those memories. You know.
On the podcast, Marcus, we tried to do the top 6, and we're looking at Man City now, and I was saying in terms people were like Leeds aren't top 6, but in terms of support,
of course, yeah.
in Ireland, certainly they're definitely in the top 3 without a shadow of a doubt. There's more Leeds fans living in Ireland than there is Chelsea or Man City fans. Do you know what I mean? Or any other fan.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
Again, it goes into history. Leeds in 70s.
Liverpool and Man United. Leeds without a shadow in Ireland anyway. Yeah. Obviously, the UK is a much bigger place. Have the 3rd biggest fan base. That's obviously, that's come out more now because they're back in the Premier League or whatever. But I get completely what you're saying. Like your fan base, as you said, the history of the club, what you have done for the Football League and all. Like that all stands, and that all stays. Doesn't matter because a young person today doesn't see that. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
I know as many Bolton fans as Manchester City fans, and look at the size of the 2 clubs now, and I still only know 1 Bolton fan or 2, say, and 1, 2 City fans. You know what I mean? So you can't buy history, lads, and you can't buy, as Mourinho says, football heritage. You can't buy it, and it's what you've done over years and years. And look, let's end it on a positive note because, Bolton promoted last year, Marcus.
Yeah. Did last night? Was it last night or the night before?
Tuesday night, we won 4-1 at Charlton.
Yeah, so I mean,
1 down.
Ian Evans is doing an unbelievable job, isn't he?
Yeah, well, this is, again, we'll get into it, that Sharon Britain came on board. Everything got literally built back up from the ground up to the top. Got us back in the green.
Just to stop you there, I was going to ask you for your opinion on Ken Anderson. And that's his name, isn't it? The previous owner, Ken.
Oh, we don't say his name round here, mate. He's a fucking bellend.
Exactly, and his son. But we can move straight on to Sharon Britain. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and she came in with a plan, and obviously Keith lives round near here. Keith Hill, he came in from Rochdale. He's a Bolton lad. Wanted him to do so well, but he could only play the hand he got dealt with. He had no players. We had no money. We had the youngest squad of players against Coventry. With the youngest team that we've ever seen.
That was unbelievable moment though.
That we filled it. I was there that day, and it was really emotional because you just seen them putting their bodies again. Harry Brockbank, he lives around the corner from here. You see him running up and down, and that just shows the passion's still there, and the crowd is building back up now. And there's a good feel about the place. Everett was in charge at Barrow, as we know. He played for Blackpool and Chesterfield throughout his career, and they got nicknamed Barrow Alona because of the football that they were playing. Now. He's come in, and I stuck behind him from get-go because I could see the way that Barrow were playing, got him into the Football League. I think it was the first time in 60 years, maybe even the first time in their history. And to me, that was the signal. And now, I mean, we started poorly last season in League Two, but he banded the squad back together out of nothing. So I knew it was going to take time, but the likes of like Doyle and Sarcevic and stuff, they played at that level.
He was hanging on to a degree, wasn't he? Though there was a lot of people that didn't want him there, that wanted him gone, and you added me into the Bolton group just to kind of nose around and Jesus.
Yeah, just to show you what sometimes how fickle people can be, And now, don't get me. Obviously, I'm Bolton. I've come out of a lot of the groups now on social media because I just can't deal with some of the stuff what you see. It's like last night, even when we were 1-0 down, 1-0 down after 12 minutes on Tuesday. And people are already on Facebook. Oh, this could be 3 defeats on trot. But every game that we've played so far this season, we've been the best team.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we end up running out 4-1 winners. This is but this is what I mean. This is why football's great as well. Though this is because without us, it just wouldn't be the way that it is. But so moving on. But good feel about the place. We've got a good squad of players together now, and we're competitive in this league. Let's not forget I'd have took a mid-table finish last season, and we actually broke a record. I think we went on 19-game unbeaten run, and it was the best out of any team in the country.
And what was it? Automatic promotion, wasn't it, in the end?
No, yeah, we did. We came third on the final day. We won a 4-1 at Crawley, and but just even that was momentous. So then at the start of this season, I've seen a couple of the players who we signed, and I thought he's ambitious, which he's got a bit of pull. He's reminding people of Allardyce. It's already been quoted a few times now. He was a defender, big, tall, but
I remember him for Blackpool actually.
But the football we're playing, I'm telling you, we've got a lot of plaudits now from managers who are in this league, and we came up. I'd have took mid-table to lower end just for get a bit of stabilisation in there instead of just keep going up and down and up and down. But exactly. we're really competitive, and as it's going on, it's more like we beat Ipswich 5-2 the other week, beat Charlton 4-1. We're in and around the playoffs sniffing, and on our day, every game we've played so far, we have been the best team. Conversion rate isn't the best. We do need a different aspect when Doyle isn't firing, which he's getting on a bit now, but his whip rate's unbelievable and his commitment to team's fantastic. So that's, at the moment, as a Bolton fan, rewinding back all them years where we're seeing all that quality, it's gone back to basics now.
Yeah,
and just to see lads...
And you build on it, don't you now?
Yeah,
you build
Rob said, sort the foundation out and get it right like that.
I don't think he realises he's on mute.
Sorry, lads.
It's just it's like Rob said, building the foundation up and starting again. Don't need buying and having all this money ploughing in straight away. Yeah. Just get it done right first. Get the basics done right, and we may well be up there. Do I think it'll be in my lifetime? I'm not 100% sure, but I never say never. I could be completely proven wrong. This team's proving me wrong a lot at the moment. Well, not so much proving me wrong, but they're proving a lot of people wrong anyway.
Yeah. And like, I think the step up from League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League, they are absolute leaps, you know.
The quality.
Here's the hoping anyway.
Yeah.
All I can say is, Marcus, it takes time, a lot of time, but it is well worth the wait. That's I
remember.
You can clear something up for us. Sorry, Tom.
Go on,
Marcus. You can clear something up for us. Who was telling the truth, Eva or McLean? Did he want them or?
Listen. McLean's a fucking muppet. Don't get me on there. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at Eva and let's have a look at McLean. And I reckon I know who's talking truth anyway.
McLean,
but he's
getting roiled up.
Yeah, fuck, you know. He's at that level now for Wigan and that. He's a dangerous player. He's an old-fashioned winger, McLean. That's what I do like about him. He'll always attack the wing and attack the byline and try and get a delivery. And every now and again, he has got. Oh, he does, and fair foot to him for that. Like he does.
He just doesn't wear a poppy on his jersey. That's his problem.
Gobshite.
Yeah, look, I think we'll ending on a good note. Bolton are massively on the way back. Look, are we going to see them in the Premier League soon? No, we're not.
No.
But you have a club, Marcus, first and foremost.
That's
and secondly,
it,
you're competitive. You have a good manager. I'm just looking at the league table. Sunderland probably look like they're going to run away with the league. Just looking at that form so far. Yeah. But you're only 5 points off second. You know what I mean? 4 points off second. So you're well in it. And look, I think it'd be absolutely unreal to see Bolton back in the Championship. That would be unbelievable. And I suppose, you're only one step away then. And who knows? Like Robbie says, 16 years it took Leeds. Here's the hoping, But
that's it, boys. Obviously, a lot of lads will be listening to this, or they will do, and it's appreciative that people take note of this Bolton side from years gone back, and we're not just cast aside just because they were just a tough side and what have you. And there is many more stories for another time, but we covered the basis of it, and it's brilliant, and here's to hoping.
And before we finish up, lads, as well, there's couple of players that we kind of, we're naming loads of really good players there. And I used to love Henrik Patterson at Bolton as well. He was fucking great player. He's always never really got any sort of credit, but he
give you 100% every game.
Yeah, he always bagged a few goals as well.
He did
every season. 8 or 9, 10 goals. Like, you know, I thought he was a really, really good player.
He played left back a lot of time as well. You know, not many people remember that. Yeah, filling in, and he always again wore his out on his sleeve and always give you 100%.
Yeah,
and like I say, the biggest one, we didn't go into it too much. Oh, Stelios again, big goals, Stelios.
Great player.
But Kevin Davis is a legend of the club now. And we know he's, for me, going through that period, what we've gone through, obviously we're delving into more renowned players, but he was one at best target man in country, and he should have played for England a lot earlier than he did. And obviously, I know England don't play that long ball football, but at that time they were, because they were putting like Carroll in team and Crouch playing in the. And I can guarantee you, majority of defenders in England were more worried about Davis than them two, but it is what it is.
It is indeed. And look, I really, really enjoyed this episode, lads. It was a great chat.
Cheers, Cracker, again.
Yeah, I have to say it was excellent. And, you know, Robbie, as always, thanks for joining me, buddy. Marcus, just love listening to somebody that's talking about their own club, their own first-hand experience.
Cheers, guys.
And, it was absolutely brilliant. So, look, until next time, boys, thanks so much for coming on.
Take it easy, boys.
Thanks, lads. Brilliant, Marcus. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Robert.